Hello, everybody. It is Lisa, and welcome to another episode of The Search. I hope today's story you enjoy, and if so, please make sure to subscribe, put the notification on. We update a case every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We also set it so that you can premiere and come in and chat with us. That way, afterwards, if you would like to leave any comments, I would be glad to answer anything. So, thank you all who have been sharing and participating. It has been going a long way and making moves I didn't know would happen so quick. So thank you so much. So today I want to get into our story of James Yoblonski. He is in Wisconsin in Saulk County. It can be pronounced, it's Sauk County. And he is 13 years old, like I said. And James is a good boy. He's 5'11", brownish blonde hair, and a good kid. Good kid. His dad said that although his dad was a little stern, he was raising him, to be a man. He enjoyed doing things outside. He did fairly well with school and was good to be around. People enjoyed him. This incident that I'm going to discuss today in this case actually takes place in 2023. So it's pretty recent. Let's just get into it. This story was really hard to do research. I work really hard to find cases that have not been done everywhere, which makes it really hard to find information that is accurate. I do the best that I can. A lot of this information came from the media, but I really tried to work with what the police officers were saying and also what the father, his name is William and sometimes called Bill. And so let's get started with it. Like I said, this goes back on June 12th, 2023. Okay. James decided he would leave in the family vehicle in the middle of the night. Yeah, 13 years old. But it was for different reasons than what you would think. I know sometimes at 13 years old, people like to sneak out and come back in. They're becoming teenagers. They do that. But this was for a whole other reason. It wasn't just to sneak out and go joyriding. It was definitely for other reasons. The vehicle was found stopped along the side westbound lane of the highway near Baraboo Bluffs, a couple miles away from the western portion of Devil's Lake State Park and the northern part of Sauk Prairie Recreation. Okay. Yoblonski's cell phone was located across the highway, which is weird, along eastbound lanes. Let me back up a little bit. His father had got up that morning about 4:30 or so, was getting some coffee and noticed that his vehicle was missing. He had looked out across and seen his van was missing. He then realized that James was missing. He then called 911, and that is how the story begins. After the father, of course, had called 911 and spoke, with them, let them know my son is missing, he was able to look on the cameras and see that, yes, his son had taken the vehicle. Now, the father said he had never even taught the kid to drive. He'd never been behind the wheel. He was very confused of what was going on. So all he knew was, you know, hopefully they can find him. And anyway, they had found the vehicle. And he told them, he let them know that he had my phone. That's how they knew. They could ping his phone Thank you now for technology. So they pinged the father's phone. He had the father's phone. So they pinged the phone, and that's where they were able to find that it was probably 200 yards, 200 yards from where the van was. So said that they had went there and said there was a campsite had been found in the woods off of Highway 12. Okay, the sheriffs had the same side of the road where the cell phone was found. The phone was pinged and led the deputies right to the area. So that's what I mean by that, saying that they pinged it. It was right off of the road, about 200 yards in, and that's what led them in there. So you got the van. The dad says, look, he also lets them know, listen, I've noticed that a gun is gone. He lets them know that one of his shotguns are gone from there. The departments were all getting involved for the search, all the different departments, including law enforcement from across the county, Columbia County. Several canine units were also deployed, but the terrain and thick forest made it the search so challenging. So it's like people don't think about when they have to walk in these woods. I mean, you cannot see barely your hand in front of you with all the bush and, like I said, all the trains and the branches and the trees and the everything just in front of you. So it was so thick, the forest made the search like almost impossible, which is why the search was suspended Monday night. Crews will stay in the area overnight Monday in case the 13-year-old returned to the campsite. So, what I want to tell you is even though they could not continue on the search once it started to get dark, because they had learned, like I said, they had pinged it, found evidence that he had set up a little campsite, that it just they couldn't continue on, but they left. I believe they said at least 6 officers and people there to just in case he came back, like, hey, we know where you were at. So it wasn't like they just left it and came back. All right, so that's a good thing, but unfortunately he did not come back. Sheriff says they reported the missing, that morning. Deputies are now searching in the woods just off the eastbound lanes. And they're really just making reports into the media. They're just reporting like, hey, we're searching. This is what's going on. And so that is when I started like, okay, let's see what the dad is saying. What are we getting? So anyway, as they go along, they actually find another like little area where things that possibly were his, there was some socks I know that they felt were his. So it's like, had he had set up later, had he met someone, just not sure. The one things the sheriffs were saying was by finding this second place, was this kid just like running from us, just a runaway? Was that what's going on? So they were deciding, is this a kidnapping? Is this an abduction? What is going on? Or is this kid running away and we're chasing? Like, and this determines how much search they have and like how they define what kind of case is this, a runaway, a kidnapping. That determines how much resources you get. During this time, weeks have gone by, a couple weeks have gone by, and while the weeks have gone by, they have gotten some tips. They have gone to the family's house, looked into their devices. When I mean devices, I mean like iPads and all the electronics, computers, phones from everybody, everything. On there, they did find where James had researched what it was like living off the grid. Also, getting in and out of states and countries and things like that. So it does look like that he had been researching this. They started in this time now they have started talking to friends, other family members. The friends did say that on the Snapchat, as you know, that is an app that will disappear after using it. Once you show it, it goes away. But that there was a time that he did mention suicide, taking his life. They did not feel that that was what was happening. By taking the gun, the shotgun was for defense, if he was going to live off the grid, I mean, he had to kill probably an animal. We found out also that he had taken 2 books with him. Now, believe that he had a woodland survival manual, all right, with him. So he had that to use. Also, his grandfather had gave him a survivalist book also. So he had 2 references of how to survive on the grid. Now, like the dad said, at his age, they had done some camping, like as a family. He had never done anything like on his own or had to live off the grid, okay? It's a big difference in living off the grid and going camping. As the weeks go by, though, the tips start to come in less. They had talked to friends and family, and it was less and less. So the dad was like, I'm not giving up. Also, in the news, Rachel Perry was the journalist and asked him, what do you think happened? We're not finding him. There's been a lot of search in the woods, if something would have happened. Mind you, this area that he was in was known for rattlesnakes, different wildlife, occasional bear. But they will say that the most emergency calls they got were due to exertions, people running out of water, people lost. It wasn't from bear attacks, but there was, wild animals by the handfuls in there. The father said that he feels like that there was some type of abduction. Why he feels like there was an abduction, one thing I know stayed on his mind is when the cadaver dogs came in, they went in, circled around the campsite, he said, and then they came like back out. They didn't go deeper in or went out, they came back out. So he's thinking maybe he never even went in. And that kind of like always made him think, why didn't they? Why didn't they pick up any other trail than just that, right? Because they were on it pretty quick. Because you got to remember, James left at like 12:30 at night, and the dad didn't know, of course, like 4:30 in the morning when he got up and realized his car was gone. And then the cops had found the car pretty quick. Then they knew that he had the dad's phone, so they pinged it. I mean, things were moving on the ball. Then they found where he had set up. They had found some things in him that related back to him. There was room for, there was means for a scent to be there. But so he tells Miss Rachel Perry on the news that he did believe that there was possible abduction involved, that he didn't believe that his son would, just be staying on the run. There was old tips that came in from that. There was sightings in other states and nothing panned out. Less and less tips started coming by. This is now around August, getting close to August. The father says that he was going to get a mortgage on his home so that he could put up a reward for the finding of his child. All right, not just a tip, but the finding. Sure enough, he was able to get that mortgage for $10,000. So now there is a $10,000 reward for James Yoblonski. He said that has helped with some extra tips coming in. Now, one thing that I do want to touch on, and for anybody that may be thinking this, like I said, A lot of stuff is just looking in the news, but I really paid attention to his interviews. And one thing that upset him was that even I think some people in the family, but as time was going on, that there was suspicions of maybe he was involved, which totally upset him because he was like, "You're wasting time. You are focusing on the wrong thing. I would never. I am begging for him. I loved him." He even said, "Hey, I was a little stern. I was, but I was raising him up to be a man." You know, he said, "The last couple years, my son was talking about joining the Air Force. We had a good thing the night before he left." He said, "We watched movies, we hung out, we were supposed to do something outdoors. I know that it was not the good weather, so that's why they did that." Things were okay as far as he's saying. But the friend said that he had even too mentioned about living off the grid. But the dad said, "Hey, I would have helped. I would have helped." Well, he was able to finally be able to hold his face high, hold his head high, and show his face and let everybody know I had nothing to do with it because they gave him a polygraph and he passed. Now, I know they're not used technically in court, but I think it helped at least say, okay, he is not responsible and we need to continue on. Also, they had gave other people polygraphs, test friends and family, people that they had looked into. They had looked into anybody of interest that they had been told. There had also been a second place that looked like had been set up, that possibly, like I'd said earlier, that he'd been. That's why they thought that he was like trying to run away. That was all important. So then you think, was he abducted? Because then there was the second place. That's why I brought that up again. What did happen to James Yoblonski? I don't know. I don't know. But somebody does. Somebody knows something. He's somewhere. Like I said, there is a reward for $10,000. The dad is asking to please, anybody, get this out. If you have any information, you can call Saulk County, S-A-U-K County. This is in Wisconsin. The number is 608-355-3508. If you have any type of information, if you've heard anything, if you heard James mention anything prior to June 12th of 2023, please let them know. Let the officers know any tips that can possibly help with anything. Investigators are continuing to search. This is still a very open case, crime of missing. We don't believe that it's a runaway. I'm not sure exactly what they are doing it, but could be possible abduction. But we know that he is a missing case. Or Saulk County Crime Stoppers at 1-888-TIP-SAU, which comes to 1-888-847-7285 with any information regarding this case. The FBI is assisting Saulk County with this investigation. Chip Meisters is the Saulk County Sheriff there. This case does not have a lot of public leads and information. I am strictly going by what news I could find on him and what his father offered. I know that he is on Facebook. He has made statements over there. Please, if you know anything, call those lines. And at this time, what I like to do is I like to give a ribbon for James. another episode of The Search with Lisa. Our prayers go out to the victims, families, and please don't forget to subscribe and share. We want to try to reach as many people as possible. Thank you, and I will see you on the next search.
Do you know where your son is?
No. If I did, he'd be home right now.